Okay, so our goal for today is to learn the final method for solving systems. We've learned how to solve by graphing. We've learned how to solve by substitution, which was kind of messy. And now today we're going to use what's called the elimination method. Now, I like this method the best, probably out of all three of them. It's a little bit less work than substitution, but not by much. But I like this method because it's sort of straightforward. And you can get to figuring out the first variable right away. All right. So what we're going to do, the goal is it's right there in the word. We want to eliminate one of the variables from these two equations. And the way in which we do that is we're going to be adding or subtracting these equations from each other in a way so that we can eliminate either the x or the y. So in order to decide how you're going to do that, you need to kind of look at the numbers that are beside each variable. If you notice, 2 and 10, 2 actually sort of goes into 10, right? 2 would go into 10 5 times, so 2 is actually a multiple of 10. So we could potentially multiply 2 by 5 to make it equal to 10, right? So there is one variable that would work for elimination. But if you look over here, 5 and 3 are not really multiples of each other. If you chose to try to eliminate y here, you're going to struggle because you're going to have to multiply both equations by something, and that's going to make more work for you. So what you want to do is you want to multiply this top equation by a number such that when you add these two equations together, you get rid of the x's. Now notice this is a positive 10 here, and you have a positive 2. Now if we want, what we need to do is multiply 2 by something so that we can get negative 10. So that negative 10 plus 10 would equal 0. All right? So in order to get negative 10, we'd have to multiply by negative 5. Now, we're allowed to do anything we want to equate an equation as long as we do it to every term in that equation. So if I'm going to multiply this equation by negative 5, then I need to multiply everything in that equation by negative 5. So negative 5 times 2x is going to be negative 10x, and we'll just write it underneath. Negative 5 times a positive 5 is a negative 25y. And then finally, negative 5 times a negative 22, that's going to be a positive 110. All right, so that's going to make this a positive 110. And now that we've got this such, what we want to do is basically add these two equations together. 10x minus x is 0. That goes away entirely. 3 plus a negative 25, or 3 minus 25, is negative 23y. And then we've got 22 plus 110. That is equal to 132. All right, and see how quickly we get down to something that we can solve for y. We're immediately getting y in 1 or 2 steps here, based on versus the substitution method from yesterday, where we had to solve for one of the variables, plug it in, and then solve. All right, so this allows you to get an answer to one of the variables pretty quickly. All right. So to solve for y, then you just want to divide both sides by negative 23. And then in your calculator, we type in 132 divided by negative 23. And that'll give us a negative 5.7. All right. So we know what y is. And now basically we do what we did yesterday. Once we have an answer for y, then we need to come back up here to one of these equations, and where we see y, plug it in. And now this is where yesterday, once we got the answer, it was pretty quick to get the second one. Now it's going to take a little bit more work. So this is where these methods they both have about the same amount of work involved in it. So I'm going to pick the equation with the smallest numbers in it because I think it's going to make my life easier. So I'm going to pick this first equation, but you don't have to. You can pick either one. So we'll go up there to the 2x, and then it's plus 5 times y, which in this case we found to be negative 5.7, and that's going to be equal to negative 22. All right, so then basically now you want to solve this equation for x. So first thing we need to do is multiply those two things together. So we've got 5.7 times 5, that's going to be negative 28.5, is equal to negative 22. And then we're going to add that to both sides. Add 28.5 to both sides. So we're left with 2x is equal to, and that's going to be 6.5. And then we'll divide both sides by 2. So x is 6.5 divided by 2, which is going to be 3.25 or 3.3. All right. So it's about the same amount of work with each method, but I think this method is a little more intuitive, a little bit easier to get your head around. All right. And as always, if you want to write it as a coordinate, you put the x one first. So it's going to be 3.25 and then negative 5.7. All right. Let me run through the next one with you. Looking at these two equations, can you think of the variable that would be the easiest one to eliminate by multiplying one of these equations by something? Notice 2 and 7 don't go. They're not multiples of each other, so this is not going to be a good area here to try to get rid of. But notice 5 and 15, 5 is a multiple of 15. You can multiply 5 by something to get 15. So let's take care of this. Now notice this is plus and this is minus, so in this case we're only going to have to multiply by a positive number because they're already opposite signs. So what do I have to multiply 5 by to get 15? Well, I have to multiply by 3. So I have to multiply the entire equation by 3. 3 times 7x would be 21x. 3 times a negative 5 is negative 15y. And then 3 times 17 is going to be equal to 17 times 3. That's equal to 51. All right, so there's my first equation, and now what I want to do, is take this equation and line it up underneath it here, so that we can add them together. So we're adding these two equations together. Notice 21x minus 2x, that's 19x. These will cancel out because that's what we wanted to happen, and that's equal to 51 minus 32. Is going to be 1. 11 minus 2 is 19. So in this one, we're lucky. We're going to get a nice whole number. Divide both sides by 19. X is going to be equal to 1. All right. So now that we have the value of x, we'll pick one of these equations. And it really doesn't matter which one you pick. We'll pick the second one this time because it has smaller numbers all the way across. So let's put in 7. We're putting in 1 where we found x. So 7 times 1 minus 5y is equal to 17. And then you solve for x. Solve for y. 7 times 1 is 7 minus 5y is equal to 17. We'll subtract 7 from both sides. And we get negative 5y is equal to 10. And then we'll divide both sides by negative 5. So y is equal to negative 2. Okay? So what I want you to do is, I'm going to end this video here, and I'm going to create a new video for this final problem. Write this problem down, see if you can do it on your own, and then check out the next video, and we'll see if you're correct.